how do we incorporate our cell phones into the learning where it's now a positive experience rather than a negative experience? Because what I've seen across the nation right now, specifically, I've seen it in Illinois, where there's this big push to ban cell phones in the classrooms. And depending on your community and your school needs, there may be something there. But I feel that if we're not teaching our kids how to use cell phones appropriately and how to make it fun, then obviously sometimes we're going to have students who are taking advantage of it.
You're listening to the smartsocial.com podcast. This is our District Talk segment where we interview district leaders to learn how they're keeping students safe on social media. And we also ask them questions that we get from parents all over the country in our program. Now let's get back to the interview.
Hi, I'm Dr. Terrell Yarborough, Superintendent of Harlem Consolidated School District 122, located in Machesney Park, Illinois. We have 11 school sites and exactly 6,199 students.
Superintendent, it's so great to have you here today as we talk about keeping kids safe on social media so they can shine online. To all of our listeners and viewers here today, we're honored to have you here as Smart Social protects your family and helps your students protect their image for the future. So I want to talk today about some superintendent parent questions that we receive from all over the country. Superintendent, it's great to have you here today because I want to get your insights on these questions and trends we're seeing. Now, after 200 plus superintendent conversations nationwide in 40 to 41 states, we've heard a consistent trend from your peers, Superintendent. We're hearing that students are growing up in a digital world nationwide filled with powerful tech, AI, and social media, but they're lacking the maturity in some cases and the guidance to use it safely. The result is more student absences, lower focus, rising cyberbullying, declining self-esteem, and AI misuse in the classroom. Now, Superintendent, you may have little angels in your community and all your kids are perfect. I don't know, but you're going to set me straight and tell me if I got this wrong. But we're hearing also from parents, they're trying their hardest to raise good kids in a world that these parents didn't grow up in, a world where now technology moves faster than safety policies. Teens know how to hide apps and online behavior, and safety lessons we're hearing usually can come after a crisis because we didn't know we needed that safety lesson. Superintendent, set me straight. Tell us what's going on. Are there any other trends in this topic that you've seen so I can alert other school districts before they see them?
I think, Josh, obviously this is a very relevant question for our times right now. For myself, I can remember being excited when I got the pager that gave me the sports scores, right? And we are way beyond that now. We have some great students and we have some supportive parents. And what we are seeing specifically in the Harlem School District is more so when you think about this question is how do we utilize the technology that we have now to best benefit our students and so they can work through things appropriately. And so what we are seeing is when you talk about the technology, specifically with AI, is instead of us running from it, we're embracing it, where we're training our staff, having intentional PD and teaching our staff the benefits of AI and how to use it, whether it's to help write an email or things like that. And so in conjunction, obviously, with what needs to be written, but also too in teaching our students how to use AI appropriately as well. Because my thing is, and what we talk about in our school district is, if we run from it, it's going to become a problem, right? I mean, just think back to when the world first, started being able to mass print books. There was some concerns about that, and how that would work out. And now here we are, right? And so with AI, as you and I are talking right now, it just changed, so being able to train our students, being able to support our teachers in those efforts as well is where we're seeing the efforts are.
I love that. I have a good friend who's a pastor, and he said, Josh, next week I'm going in to teach his whole staff how to use AI. He's like, we have a lot of people who just don't want to use it. They don't want to embrace it. And I'm going to go in and talk to them about prompt engineering and how to use it to save time so you can meet more with the congregation. How do you free up more time? We're hearing a lot in that same case. A lot of teachers are using this to free up more time, that they'll do an IED, an individual education plan or something like that, or they'll come up with lesson plans or examples so they can spend more one-on-one time with the kiddos, right? Which is what we're all here to do, is to nurture those bright minds, which I love. And I love how some people, I get it, and parents, there's zero shame here. You're listening from all over the country and you're like, this AI thing, I don't know. And I mean, it really is a powerful way to give every kid a tutor when you're looking over their shoulder and you're not letting them run free. We have to have some guardrails. We have to have some dialogue. And I'm excited for churches to use it more. Teachers are doing such a great job with it. Teachers, we love you. We support you, especially when it frees up time to really look over the kids' papers even more. Free up time to spend more time with the kids, to answer Q&A in the classroom, to teach your best way. Superintendent, what are some other exciting ways that you're embracing AI instead of running from it?
Right. Just making sure that we're intentional with talking about it, right? We're intentional with making sure that when we're writing, when our principals during the summertime are looking at what are the goals for the upcoming year for our school improvement plans, making sure that the use of AI and technology is within those goals, so that is being talked about in the classrooms, it's being talked about in staff meetings, it's making sure that when we're having our orientation, back to school orientation days, that we're explaining to parents about AI and not being afraid of it, simply because, again, it's different than how we learned, back in the 90s. But at the same time, just being intentional and making sure that we're talking about it and we have it within our plans.
I love that. I think it's so important. And a lot of parents are worried, is AI going to take my kid's job? Is it going to do this stuff? And I want all the parents to remember 25, maybe 30 years ago, Microsoft Word came out and Excel came out. And it wasn't that Excel took everyone's job. It was just people who knew how to use Excel started taking people's job. It was a real human who knew how to use the tools. And so that's what we want you to think about this. Smart Social has a lot of great events here that we can talk with you more about. But one of the biggest questions we get is this question I want to share. And with all of our audience, you know that we host all these live events and we help millions of parents nationwide. We get a lot of parent feedback. And I want to share with you some of the questions parents have and some of the answers in the middle of this podcast. So parents are asking us, hey, Josh, what advice would you give a student to help them recognize some of the red flags of a dangerous stranger? This is on the safety side of what Smart Social does. Well, let's hear from a real teen about how she might help a friend recognize those red flags.
If I had a friend talking online to a stranger, I think that I would feel a little bit uncomfortable with the whole situation. I would advise against it because so many indirect issues can come from that, and it could cause something to be worse than if they had just unadded them in the first place. Some red flags that I would have to advise them to cut it off with this person or to stop engaging would be if the person starts to get very involved in their personal life and they seem to be very intrigued in what's going on with them and wanting to know all the little details about what they do and who they are, and just very personal details and things that you wouldn't normally share with a stranger in real life. If they're very persistent and constantly wanting to talk to my friend or constantly trying to be involved in their life or wanting to speak to them, I feel like that's kind of a red flag. Another thing would be if they ask them to ever meet them anywhere in person right from the start, if they feel a sense of being uncomfortable or their intuition is just saying it's wrong, or if my intuition is saying something feels wrong with this, then I think that's a major red flag.
Parents, remember, we host weekly live parent events and replays, but we don't come to your city. They're online on your smartphone, your tablet, or your desktop. You can bring your kids to them and you can watch the replay or join us live. You're entering for a chance to win a Kindle, a 3D printer, a Bluetooth speaker if your district is already a partner. There's so many exciting ways to do that. And there's teen-led video lessons like what you just saw. So if you bring your kids to some of these really important discussions, there's a really good chance that your kids, we've heard that kids go, Mom, that wasn't so bad. And we have the difficult discussions about screen time, dangers, and so on with your kids in the room, and a premium parent newsletter. This is my friend Ron Wilson. This is what goes right when you attend these events, parents. If your district is a partner, let's look what went right in New York. You are the one that needs to decide whether it's too much screen time or just right.
But parents and teachers know when it comes to teenagers and social media, that's easier said than done. So in an effort to protect students from the dangers of being chronically online, schools are doing something you might not expect: asking parents to get online too.
It makes an awareness to parents and students. It also gives them an understanding of some of the warning signs.
That's just one reason why Deron Wilson, an executive director of school engagement, says his district uses the app Smart Social. It's an online app designed to educate parents and students on how to avoid strangers and dangerous situations online.
Kind of like, I want to say, a trap. When you get involved in the cyberbullying, you might start friending somebody on an app, or somebody might say, hey, they might send me your picture.
Smart Social founder Josh Oakes says while there are a lot of things that can and should scare us online, the increased number of parents he is able to reach underscores the importance of growing social gathering spaces online.
Back in the day, I used to be one of the top social media safety speakers nationwide, but I was flying around to certain school districts and they're the best of intentions, but only 20 or 30 parents would show up. We get 10 times the amount of parents to show up, and they want to learn from the convenience of their home or office how to keep their kids safe on social media. They want to ask live questions. They want to learn how to have dialogue starters with their kids that actually get their kids excited about talking with their parents and strengthening that relationship.
Darcy Wertique, Spectrum News.
Parents, remember, all summer long, we have a really exciting stuff. We're talking about how to shine online, helping your child build a positive footprint. We've got reducing arguments with a family media plan, avoiding strangers. We've got all kinds of really exciting events. And you can watch our replays, not only in English, but in 12 total languages. It's incredible. And we've got a whole lineup for back to school. Perhaps one of the biggest anti-bullying projects in the country in October. So we hope, parents, that you can make it. All right, we are now back with our guest, Superintendent. In addition to the 200 plus peers that I've chatted with that you have of your superintendents in 41 states nationwide, doing a listening tour, if you will, trying to learn what's happening. I'm so honored, and shout out to all those superintendents who took time out. We're also hearing this from communities, and we already talked about kids safety. Now we're talking about parent engagement, which I'm hearing, Josh, if I can partner with parents, it can fix a lot of these problems. So I want to hear from you, and set me straight if I got this wrong. I'm hearing that many parents are feeling overwhelmed trying to keep up with fast-moving online trends and digital safety risks. I'm hearing that students are finding ways to increase their screen time and bend the rules during school district, when outside of summer, especially when the expectations at school differ significantly from those at home. Superintendent, what trends or pain points are you also seeing when it comes to parent engagement? And where do you feel families are struggling the most to stay informed or connected?
I think, and that's a very good question, Josh. I think that with our parents specifically, I see a rise in obviously wanting to be connected, with our schools, but not knowing how to do it. And so what the message that we are sending out to our families is to make them a priority. Whether it's joining the PTA, whether it's, just being a part of the school activities, things of that nature, so they know about them, and inviting them into our schools. And I think that is a battle within itself, that if you can get through that, the parents feel welcome, they feel like they belong, and they'll attend our events. And so that's something that we're being intentional, in the Harlem School District in doing, and I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, some of the school districts nationwide say, Josh, we're trying to get higher turnout. We're trying to engage better this way. Do you have any tips or suggestions that you've learned on your end on how to get more parents to come out to these events so that they do feel engaged? Because there's a lot going on. People are busy these days.
Absolutely. I think, and it's a cliche, but it's true. Food always helps, right? And making sure that you have that your events, whether it's donuts, for families, we have that, or it's just giving out, just making sure that when you invite families in, you have something, for them, because especially when it's an after school event or after work event, you want to make sure that our parents do have something, right, along those lines. But I think most importantly, though, is to get the information out exactly of what it is that you're needing from parents, as far as what activity it is, what event it is, making sure it's in multiple languages when it goes out, because you want to make sure that all of your parents in your community feel like they belong and feel like they have a place there. Specifically, our parents, obviously who speak other languages, we want to make sure that whether we're sending out newsletters or the advertising of events, that they're included in that, so they feel like they belong and they have a space there and they have a place there.
Yeah, so well said. And, Superintendent, I'm excited to have you here because to all of our listeners right now, you're either a superintendent, you're a parent, or you're someone awesome in between who we love, adore, and support. A lot of our audience members are saying, Josh, our community's different, or our kids are different, or the needs are different. I've had some schools in Texas say that. And I've often reminded them, every community is different, but every community has kids with this. And if you're a listener right now, I'm holding up my iPhone or an Android, and they all have TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram. Superintendent, what would you tell to parents or other districts that say my community's unique, while they still have the similar trends and such. They have the same apps, the same addiction, and kids with really kind of the same desire to be on the screen as much. How would you bring everybody together to talk about what's most important on keeping their kids safe?
Yeah. And, I think that's, I mentioned it earlier, that's where it's so important that when you're having your parent meetings, your back to school parent meetings, that you're having conversations with parents about the use of cell phones, about our policies, whatever your policy may be, whether it's, as soon as you get to school, you're putting away your cell phones, or if it's different at the secondary level where you're allowing students to use their cell phones during lunches, that parents have a clear understanding of the expectations so that they can work with it with their students as well. But for me personally, just going back to the AI question, is how do we incorporate our cell phones into the learning where it's now a positive experience rather than a negative experience? Because what I've seen across the nation right now, specifically I've seen it in Illinois, where there's this big push to ban cell phones in the classrooms. And depending on your community and your school needs, there may be something there. But I feel that if we're not teaching our kids how to use cell phones appropriately and how to make it fun, then obviously sometimes we're going to have students who are taking advantage of it.
I love that. I think that ends on such a high note. How do we make these tools fun so that kids can use them in the future in the right way?
Yeah.
Hey, Superintendent, thanks for taking the time out to join us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
To all of our listeners, it's been great to hang out with you. Remember, there's no shame, but the number one way to keep your kids safe on social media is to have a rich dialogue with them, to make sure they know that they can come to you if they see anything inappropriate online. That means you might have to ask them some open-ended questions from time to time. They will shoot you down. They will be typical 14-year-olds and maybe not want to talk to you, but you get 5 extra points just for trying. And someday when they're ready, they might come to you. And that's what we wish for your family, is for you to be the number one safety app in the world for your kids, that rich dialogue, that rich relationship, rather than them chatting with other people online that could be strangers. Parents, I'm so grateful for your time here today. And I want you also to remember to keep it light, bright, and polite, because your kids are watching what you're doing online. We'll see all of you on the next episode. Have a great rest of the day. Thanks for listening to the smartsocial.com podcast. Smart Social helps parents understand technology and social media to keep their kids safe and successful. Be sure to join one of our weekly online live events to become the smartest parent on the block so you can keep your kids safe and protect their future. Also, don't miss our 450 plus online resources and replays you can watch on demand in multiple languages. Are you a school district wanting to unlock these resources for your parents? Reach out to us so we can protect your whole community each week. Have a great rest of the day, and we'll see you on the next episode.